not going to, through government coercion, close a church, synagogue, or place of worship, but we have advocated that folks worship in a way that's consistent with social distancing guidelines, and I know that most establishments are doing that, and I know there's different ways to do it. We have said repeatedly that we want people to be spiritually together but socially distant. So as you keep God close during these important religious days, make sure you continue to keep COVID-19 away. Today, the Florida Department of Emergency Management is sending out one of the biggest shipments of supplies in the department's history. 2 million surgical masks, 300,000 face shields, more than 50,000 containers of hand sanitizer, 500,000 shoe covers, more than 100,000 gowns, and 350,000 gloves. So with today's push, the cumulative total for the department, 5.2 million masks, more than 500,000 face shields, 4.75 million gloves, 275,000 gowns. So I want to thank Director Moskowitz for his hard work. That's an enormous effort. That's a huge amount of supplies being pushed out to first responders and frontline healthcare workers, and I'm really appreciative of them working so hard. In terms of testing, we're well over 150,000 tests. That's about one for every 140 Floridians. We're continuing to work hard on that. 3 of the drive-through sites that we have been involved with in the state of Florida, the one at the Jaguar Stadium in Jacksonville, the one at Orange County Convention Center in the Orlando area, and the one at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, were all federally supported sites, and so the federal government would provide PPE, provide a certain amount of swabs. That was helpful that they were able to do that. They did, though, because it was run under the federal requirements, limited to 250 swabs a day because of their contract with LabCorp and Quest. That runs out tomorrow. I think it's in the interest of Floridians to continue running those sites. So we, the state of Florida, are gonna resource all of those sites. We're sending, Jared Moskowitz is sending thousands of swabs to each of those sites. We're gonna send National Guard. I think the mayor of Jacksonville's asked for some additional National Guard support in the Jacksonville site, so we're gonna do that. And because we're no longer under the federal restrictions, we should be able to accommodate way more than 250 a day. The sites that the state of Florida has run with local governments or with local healthcare systems, like the one we did in Broward County with Memorial, we run through 700-800 people a day, and that is a good model to be able to do. So hopefully we'll be able to see more people coming through those sites. One of the things, though, that I think is going to need to be done to ensure higher traffic is to expand the test criteria for each site. Right now, the criteria for the drive-in sites has typically been healthcare workers, first responders, or people 65 and up that have symptoms. And in a place like Jacksonville, although they've used the site, that has not been enough, so they've expanded a little bit. I think we can expand in Orlando and Miami. So the Department of Health is working on that, but I think that you will then see a more expanded criteria for this. One of the things we're looking at, and we've got to figure out how you would put it out there in a way that is that would be understandable and coherent, is are there people out there who have had repeated close contacts with somebody who then developed COVID-19 but then they pretend themselves don't have any symptoms? We may want to be finding some of those people and testing them on this to see whether they in fact had it. Now we're working on getting these antibody tests in. That would be a way to see after the fact whether somebody had it and developed antibodies. But this idea of an asymptomatic carrier and then how they would interact with the public, I think that's important to know now as we continue to work to slow the spread. But beyond this period, people that are asymptomatic, how much are they spreading it? How many of them have it? I think those are going to be good answers to have. So those test centers will continue, and I think they'll continue with expanded criteria. We also are continuing to work to distribute these rapid test machines from Abbott Labs. So the state has received 15 of those, and so we're working on identifying the hospitals that still need some. The Abbott Labs They distributed a number of them to a number of healthcare systems here in Florida. Some of those systems we've worked with, like Cleveland Clinic, to make sure other big hospital systems had access to some. So we want to see where that process is, and then any other holes we want to look to fill. But we think it's really important to have the access to a rapid test, particularly in a hospital situation. It helps protect the workers, and it also will help identify who is COVID and who is not as people come in who may be symptomatic. We are, of course, yesterday I was in Miami. Our contingency planning for bed space, this is something that we had planned on from day one. We are moving ahead with the Miami Beach Convention Center in conjunction with the Army Corps of Engineers. So that will be 400 regular beds, 50 ICU beds. We also are going to have the Pan American Hospital down there outfitted with about 200 beds. Right now, I think we'd be able to get 100 pretty quickly. They have to fix the elevator to get people up on the other floors, but that is something. There'll be a step-down ICU there. There's, I think, 30 beds for with Nicholas Hospital System, so we're working on that. There is a field hospital as well. So there's a lot of bed capacity that's been staged in South Florida, and we're going to continue to monitor that. I've also spoken with other people throughout the state about any type of surge plans. Bottom line is we do have the ability to move beds, to move a field hospital, and do that relatively quickly. Those whether it's the convention center, whether it's the Pan American Hospital, those are all staffed with National Guard, with nurses and doctors who are not necessarily a part of these Florida hospital systems. So it's a way to really supplement what's already being done, but we're trying not to divert a lot of the manpower from the current hospitals to do it. So we're planning on that. But we're also monitoring the bed availability and seeing if there's any major changes. Yesterday, day over day, a net reduction in COVID hospitalizations in Florida of 104, yet a negative 122 in Miami-Dade, and then Broward, Palm Beach, Hillsborough, Orange, Duval were effectively flat. Orange had negative reduction, a negative 8 reduction. So we have a total of 1,875 hospitalizations, total bed capacity. 43% of hospital beds in Florida are available and vacant right now. That's been pretty consistent over the last, I would say, 10 days. You go back at the beginning of March, you go to a place like Miami-Dade or Broward, they didn't only have 55% or 58% occupancy, they had 88% occupancy. Dade and Broward both at the beginning of last month. So there's a lot of space available. We're obviously monitoring that every step of the way. But today, we really wanted to focus on education. One of the biggest changes with this posture is our parents basically becoming teachers in many respects. I know we're doing distance learning. Parents are having to be more involved than ever. It's obviously been a challenge to have the kids home all the time when parents are used to the kids being in school for this time of year. So there's a whole bunch of issues, I think, surrounding that are important. And I asked the Commissioner of Education, Richard Corcoran, to bring some folks from a variety of context here, parent, teacher, people in the administration side of it, to talk about some of the issues, talk about some of the challenges. Vice President Pence recognized Florida as the leader in distance learning, and we appreciate that, and I think we've done a great job, but there's always going to be different things coming up, and I know Richard's done a lot just in the last week to work to try to make it better, but our district distance learning we're constantly evaluating. We're looking to see what else needs to be done, but the Department of Education here in Florida has worked with all school districts to operationalize all their distance learning plans. Florida Virtual Schools has also made 100 courses available for free for all schools and is allowing school districts to connect for free to the Florida Virtual Schools learning management system. Florida Virtual School also has dramatically increased the capacity and number of its services to create a safety net that could serve more than 2.7 million Florida students, should that be necessary. The Department of Education has created a list of hundreds of free educational resources, which they shared directly with more than 2 million parents, and a best practices guide for distance learning, which they shared with over 175,000 teachers. The department also purchased 32,624 laptops for 34 mostly small rural school districts and is currently distributing those laptops now. Of course, the department received U.S. DOE approval for canceling state assessments in 2020. And also to ease the financial and professional stress on Florida's teachers, the department delayed teacher certification test requirements and offered teachers the opportunity to take those tests at no cost. So that has eliminated test costs for more than 22,000 teachers. And under Commissioner Corcoran's leadership, the department has also conducted multiple webinars every week to provide technical assistance to stakeholders such as early learning coalitions, blind services providers, career technical education programs, and instructional continuity for public and private schools, instruction of students with special needs. So I want to thank Richard for what he's done on all those fronts. And with that, what we'll do is I'll let Richard make some opening comments. Richard will then introduce our guests. We have a couple guests here. We also have a couple guests on the Skype or the FaceTime, and we'll like to hear from them, and then we'll just maybe have a discussion about some of these things. So, Richard.
Thank you, Governor. First and foremost, I want to thank you for your leadership. It's from your executive orders and all of your guidance, it has made it as easy as possible in this difficult time for the department to move forward and continue in its mission to give kids the best education we possibly can, as well as keeping them safe, first and foremost. We always say those are our two priorities: keep students safe, and number two, continue to try to provide that world-class education. And we tell everybody, in cooperation, we have great cooperation with our superintendents, our teachers, the union. Everyone's been just rallying around in a way that you would hope to see. And we let everyone know that our defaults will continue to be compassion and grace. And that's what you've seen, a lot of those statistics, Governor, that you outlined. 22,000 teachers taking advantage of the certification fee waiver. Those are the kinds of things that are continually allowing us to elevate and celebrate that profession and move us forward. You know, it's been said by one principal, and we've sent this out, and a pretty viral video of a history teacher giving a graduation speech telephonically to his graduates, and he was saying that you guys are a generation that was born around 9/11, lived through the Great Recession, and now is going through one of the world's greatest pandemics. So, you know, what we know from our superintendents, from our teachers, we have two teachers, two superintendents, a parent, all of it with us in addition to our department staff. What we're seeing is that this generation, hopefully they're the beginning of a great generation. They're hopefully another greatest generation here in America, given all that they've had to survive. But what's clear is we always joke and say that we're the education state. Nothing has proven that more than this, whether it's Secretary DeVos or Vice President Pence, whether it's superintendents from large urban districts from around the country calling our superintendents, whether it's the other states calling our department. Clearly Florida, as they have been shouted out by Vice President Pence, is leading the way in this distance learning. And when you take almost 3 million kids, you know, 200,000 give or take teachers, and in literally days come up with continuity learning plans, and all of these kids being educated, and you're going to hear the innovative ways they're doing it. It's just tremendously remarkable. And so here's what we say is, you know, we're going to persevere, we're going to get through this, and we're going to continue to keep students safe, and we're going to continue to do a great job of giving them that great education. You mentioned some of the stats. With us is Dr. Algaze. Dr. Algaze, going back to the beginning of March when we were hearing what was coming out of Wuhan, sat down and we all got together and we said, how do we plan? Let's just worst case scenario it out. And instead of, some states have actually shut down their virtual schools. Back in the beginning of March, not only were we not shutting down our virtual school, we were buying an additional 12 servers. We were expanding the learning management platform. And now, not only is it available to all virtual education full-time student and a learning management platform that will serve 2.7, our entire student population, Dr. Algaze is also helping students in Alaska, in the remote areas where they're struggling to get education to them. They are now in a partnership with the virtual school, providing that education for students in Alaska. But I want to start with Dr. Algaze. If you can just walk us through the great work that you're doing, Dr. Algaze, and we're very happy to have you with us.
Thank you. I want to go ahead and thank you, Governor and Commissioner Corcoran, and the leadership that you all have provided. You have removed all sorts of obstacles and red tape to allow the districts to be able to move, allow them to work with us in constant communication with them since the beginning of the pandemic in order to be prepared to afford to them whatever assistance we could. We realized that as the state's online public school district with 22 years of experience developing and teaching digital courses, that we were a one-stop solution that people could take advantage of. And we needed to be prepared and available to help the parents, the students, school districts across Florida and the nation. Specifically, as the commissioner mentioned, we launched multiple support services. We started with teacher training, was one of the first conversations we had with the Department of Education as they were coming up with their continuity plans and realizing that many teachers were going to be in a position where they were in an uncomfortable situation or out of their comfort zone in any case, teaching online, that this would be something that we could immediately help with. So we offered the virtual teacher training for school districts and for private schools and public schools, charter schools, in order for them to learn about our online platform and also to share best practices and online instruction to get them prepared to teach students online. It's an online course that the teachers can go on at their own pace, and at the end of the course, there is online live support with some of our first. So far, we have 33 school districts and over 100 charter and private schools have taken advantage of this. And we have about 3,400 teachers currently in the process of being trained. The Department of Education offered some stipends and professional development for teachers, and many of them will be taking advantage of that as well. After everything we do is about quality, so we survey everybody who finishes to make sure that what we're doing is something that's worthwhile. And 90% of the teachers so far have rated our training as being extremely and very useful to them. Right after that, we offered the 100 free digital courses. We went back and forth with what type of offerings we wanted to give in order to maximize the number of students we could help. So ultimately, we landed on making our content available so that teachers can pick up where they left off in the brick and mortar situations and then just move forward with content so the kids could continue to learn as opposed to just reviewing, for instance. So our content of 100 free digital courses through K through 12 is available to everyone in the state of Florida, all the students in the state of Florida, all the schools in the state of Florida. And we're ramping it up little by little, but eventually by May 4th, we're hoping as our target deadline, and before if we can, to be available to all 2.7 million students. Under the current situations, and again, when we started this, there was a lot of uncertainty, and there still is plenty of uncertainty, but maybe a little bit more clarity now as we're somewhere in the middle of this, whether or not, where students were going back to school, at what point they'd be going back to school, at what point the continuity plans for the school districts they'd want to shift. So we wanted to be available for everyone, and in case there's ever any other emergency or any other type of reoccurrence of this, we wanted to be available for all of our students to be able to learn digitally if they had to. So right now, we have, on the last couple of days, today's Thursday, last 4 days, we've had 103,000 students come on board through the school districts and private and charter schools. After that, we also created, or actually before that, our website and our virtual information for folks. For schools and districts, useful tips, information, and about 7,000 schools and districts. Folks have looked at those websites, which was launched on March 5th. The teacher training website, which has a lot of tips for teachers on how to do things virtually, about 18,000 hits have been on that point of the website. And for students and parents, we've had about 28,000 hits on those websites. And giving tips for parents, since as the governor mentioned, they're all of a sudden becoming the main teachers there for help in how to guide their kids with their online teachers to be productive and to continue their learning. From that, we evolved our very robust online learning community, and that's for all students, parents, teachers, online educators for grades kindergarten through 12, and it's informative and engaging content. It's got articles. We have live webinars. So far, we've had about 400 participants in these live webinars. We've served about 6,000 folks with these. And it's all a one-stop shop, all consolidated for anybody who's interested in how to navigate online learning. And finally, for students and the parents who want to put their students immediately into our Flex system in order to help them continue with their education, we've modified our procedures so that when a student comes on board, the first thing that happens is the online teacher gets with them and determines where they are in their coursework so that they continue their learning again. Instead of just reviewing what they've already learned, they can move forward and get a productive time during their online sessions. And approximately 13,000 students have come online so far. Again, this is free to everyone. It doesn't impact the districts at all. We've put them in a specific server coding so that we can keep track of them and understand that they are coming with us possibly temporarily as they continue whatever courses they had in their brick and mortar school so that they can continue their learning. And finally, as was mentioned, supporting Alaska, we're starting off with the small groups, 300 students who, as was mentioned, have a hard time to access education, especially now. So that's the first phase of what we're doing with them. The second phase is we're going to be training their teachers that are going to be working eventually in their own virtual schools. And ultimately, they'll be using our digital content in order to go ahead and teach their kids online next school year. That's essentially what we have from the Florida Virtual School. And thanks for inviting us to be able to share the opportunities we have available for kids throughout our state.
Thanks, Dr. Algaze. Also with us is Superintendent Mike Grego from Pinellas County. Superintendent Grego has been a regular call for all of us seeking his counsel, advice, and input. But Superintendent, if you could give us what some of the challenges are, some of the successes, and things that you're working on.
Yes, absolutely. I've gotten used to unmuting myself more times than not over the last few weeks, so thank you for your patience. And first of all, thank you for inviting us. And my comments today may be directed a little bit towards Pinellas County, but let me assure you, thank you for your kind comments, Governor DeSantis and Commissioner Corcoran, for all the superintendents and the incredibly hard work that they've put forth over the last several weeks to continue instruction throughout this great state of Florida. What we've accomplished is monumental, but let me also add my thanks to both the governor and the commissioner and the Department of Education, because I share with my colleagues our thanks, daily calls with Chancellor Oliva, who's sitting up there, and that he's constantly, consistently available to us on a daily basis. So thank you so much for your support, because what we've done is incredible, but we could not have done it if it hasn't been for all of us working together. It has truly been the village that has brought this state together around the K through 12 environment. So thank you so much. Our district's goals, as I know the goals of all districts, the 67 school districts and others in the state of Florida, is to, number one, support our schools, support our students, and then support our families so that learning continues. One of the things that resonated with me early on when the commissioner said, our buildings may be closed, but our schooling and our learning must continue. And I've carried that, and other superintendents have carried that throughout the last several weeks, and will continue to carry that out as it's needed. We've had to communicate like none other in terms of our consistent message, our streamlined communications through so many multimedia venues, through videos and websites. And I can say to you as one superintendent, our community has rallied around this event. We've rallied around to help one another. Rest assured that the communities and the parents and the teachers and the support staff and everyone involved has done such tremendous work, and it's been such a lift that has brought us closer together than ever before. And it surprised many of us as we are weekly on a call through FADS, and I want to thank Kurt Browning, our current president, for his service and his leadership through this event. But our attendance in the state and our attendance in Pinellas County in our first week is district-wide. Our engagement is at 97%. And I'm not quite sure I would have guessed that it would have been that high. But it's an indication of how people are rallying together around the digital learning platform. And that was last Friday. I've also included well over a few thousand computers, laptops distributed this week. So I'm venturing to guess that 3% is going to be down to under 1% at the end of today or at the end of tomorrow, which is phenomenal considering the task of ensuring that over 100,000 students, and as you said, just under 3 million students throughout the state of Florida are connected. Throughout the state, our districts are distributing meals. I know in Pinellas we have over 50 sites, our school sites, our community sites. We're working in partnership with them. And I want to thank our food and nutrition workers throughout the state of Florida, because they are on the front line, keeping safe, but also providing those necessary meals to our students and families. Our digital platform is working really well. I know the commissioner set out a goal that the first week was going to be a week of transition. Just that week, we had over 1.3 million logins by students and 1.5 by teachers. So we know that everybody was engaging on this work. With how we're handling our distribution at this time, one of the major successes that we've had is we have child study teams that are assembled through our social workers, school psychologists, and many of our support staff in each and every one of our schools. We are going to find the 1%, 2%, 3% of students who may not be engaged. We're going to find out the reason why they're not, and we're solving that problem. I want to thank our partners, our business partners in the community, Spectrum, who stepped forward for free internet service. I want to thank the Juvenile Welfare Board for paying some of the overdue bills for some of our most needy families. I want to thank Pinellas Education Foundation and the Foundation for a Healthy St. Pete. When they saw that we needed greater hotspots, they provided a check for $150,000 to provide over 500 hotspots to ensure that every student has that access in our community. The digital divide, we need to erase it in our state, and our business community is truly helping. I want to say that some of our driving themes has been less is more out there with working with families and the things that they're going through, quality over quantity, relationships over rigor, grace before grades, and patience before programs, and love before lessons. And let's continue to support, let's continue to be flexible, let's continue to balance our lives and balance and support one another as we go through this. I can't thank the superintendents throughout the state enough for continuing to rally around the needs of students and families. Communities look to us and look to the principals of their local schools as the kind of the catalyst to keep things together. And I'm so pleased, and thank you, Commissioner, for inviting Stephanie Woodford as one of our principals here today. But again, thank you, and we're here to continue to help the state in any way possible, Governor. Thank you so much for your leadership.
Well, thanks. Mike, just obviously this is a big change for parents to have the kids in the house. What's been the feedback from the parents in Pinellas County about what's been done in terms of the distance learning? What's the view about, are they glad the kids are out of school? Do they look forward to the day they go back to school? I'd just be interested to get what you're hearing on the ground.
I think they'll look forward to the day that we can go back to a level of normalcy. But I also want to work to build a level of trust that when the students come back, they're coming back to a very safe environment. In a few minutes that I didn't cover everything, Governor, but certainly during that period of time, we deep cleaned our schools. But one of the challenges we're going to have is to continue to enforce that when we go back to that, whatever that normal is, that our students and our families feel safe, that our school environment is a safe environment to be in.
Great. All right, well, thank you so much. I know it's to have to, when you're planning the school year at the beginning, most people probably didn't think that it was going to evolve this way, but you guys moved very quickly, and particularly in a place like Pinellas where you've got a lot of students and it's a populous county. So I want to commend you for all your hard work and effort.
Yeah, and thanks, Mike. I also loved your, yeah, I'm going to have to steal that from you. You're going to have to send it up to us, all of your principles that you use and as you do the less is more and love over lessons. That's great stuff. Also want to commend, Governor, and you should know this, nationwide, there's some districts that are struggling with having kids go off the grid in this circumstances, some of them 15% and above. And as Mike said, you know, we're going to get to, I think, 1%. And even that 1% is not good, not where we want to be. But one of the priorities of your administration has been closing that achievement gap, and we're tracking those kids with cooperation from the superintendents, and we will engage in whatever is necessary to get those kids back on track. But with that, one of the principals, I've been honored to tour her school, and she's fantastic, and she deals with students who are from a low socioeconomic background. But why don't you talk about that and what you're doing? But it's Principal Stephanie Woodford.
Hi, good afternoon. This has been quite the interesting feat at our school. I've been awed and impressed by my faculty who has seamlessly transitioned to this new learning. As of yesterday, we had only 2 scholars who we had not located and gotten online, which was a pretty amazing number. My assistant principal and I went out with the to meet St. Pete Police and did wellness checks on the 2 scholars we had not been able to locate. But we've even found scholars who were on vacation. We have one who was in New York and is still in New York, so we have worked out a system with him to get him online as well. So the administrative side of it, getting technology in all of our students' hands with the hotspots and tracking them down with the mobility rate as we do, was a pretty big undertaking. But it's been exciting to watch going in and out of the classrooms with the students, on with the teachers. Dr. Grego mentioned being compassionate, and I think that's the balance that the teachers are working so delicately to find. You want to not overwhelm families as they're going through this challenging time, but you also want to meet the needs of every student. At our school, we track every student where they are academically and through assessments, and so transitioning to this, just holding that same expectation to individualizing instruction for every student's been important. But just as much as we don't want to overwhelm our students and families, we don't want to underwhelm them either. So some of our families are saying, I'm finally home and I'm able to work with my child and give me more. And so you want to make sure that during this time you're not doing a one-size-fits-all. I had a parent call yesterday frustrated, and I think some of the frustration is, you know, we're teaching our students and it's not the same way we were taught before, and so our parents are working really hard with this online learning, and so she was frustrated and was feeling overwhelmed. We reached out to the teacher. The teacher got online with the child and the parent, did a little mini lesson on decimals, which was amazing, and the parent was just relieved. But the lesson was as much for the parent as for the child, so the parent was able to assist. While I was on that call, my math coach came on, the science coach, the behavior coach, everybody is just jumping in, embracing. It's been just amazing to watch. I'm honored to be a part of the staff.
Thank you. Next, we have 2 teachers. One of the teachers is at that same school, Ruth Morales. And if you want to just give us an update on what you're doing with your students.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm privileged to be here with everyone. It's been a tremendous learning experience for myself and the scholars. I think something to really keep in mind is that even though it's been tricky for a lot of us with technical glitches and the distance, it's really helped some of our scholars thrive. So I have a few of my introverts who really taking tremendous leaps academically speaking, and they have this platform where they feel safe and they can work in their own pace, get feedback from not just that one teacher or instructor during that block of instruction, but they can reach out to their coach, their favorite teacher, professor, and whatnot. And so it's been a really enjoyable experience as well as a taxing one, because we're all learning and it takes time and patience. But I would certainly say that togetherness and everyone jumping on board to help one another, parents, teachers, colleagues, administration, all working together to make sure students get what they need at home has been tremendous. And I'm really glad to be part of it.
Thank you. And now we have Sarah Hall, who is a first grade teacher in Seminole County. Sarah?
Hi. Hi, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I would like to specifically thank Governor DeSantis, Commissioner Corcoran, and everybody involved in this meaningful conversation for soliciting teacher voice and for the incredible honor of being able to share mine. As a classroom teacher, and like Commissioner Corcoran said, I'm currently teaching in my 17th year in a first grade classroom of a Title I school. And I know that this is an unprecedented time that we will talk about for the rest of our lives. And I know that with that will appear stories of resilience and stories of what Floridians do best, which is rise to the occasion and find innovative ways to meet the needs of our students with what Commissioner Corcoran said, a default of compassion and grace. And that's what's driving me as a classroom educator right now. With my classroom environment and also with educators across the state of Florida that I network with and have been sharing with, I'm excited about the positive narrative that is being driven through our classrooms and out to our families. And some of those are an elevated caregiver engagement with especially some more of our most fragile families. And that's been really exciting and inspiring to see. There's been an elevated level of accountability between home and school as well with that. Also with educator collaboration across district lines has been very exciting, as we know that it's not where you teach and who you teach, but why you teach. And that's what connects every educator's heart across our state. And then also innovative approaches to learning experiences. Just this morning, I took my first graders on a virtual field trip to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and they loved the experience. And also I know in Seminole County, we are coming up with creative solutions to important school-based programs such as graduation and prom. And these are what is going to bring normalcy to the teachers and to the families, which is what we all crave right now. I would like to advocate for something that I am extremely passionate about and also immersed in sharing about across our state, and that's social emotional learning. It's a potential barrier in that we are not face-to-face with our students. We don't have eyes on them right now like we have ever before. And I would like to invite classroom teachers and state stakeholders to remember the idea of Maslow before Bloom. If we can meet the needs of our students with their hierarchy of needs as far as feeling safe and excited about learning, then they'll be more engaged and be able to experience more meaningful lessons and academic experiences with their teachers. I would love to applaud First Lady DeSantis on the initiatives that she's been driving out from Tallahassee as far as Hope for Healing and also Brave. Being resilient and voiced in emotions. These, along with building relationships and maintaining a two-way street of compassion and grace, is what is going to maintain our mental health checkpoints with our students, especially our students in the most fragile home environments. And I know that Florida educators and students and families are going to come out on top of this because, like Commissioner Corcoran said, we have a default of compassion and grace, and that is what makes me prouder than ever to be a Florida educator.
Thanks. I just, what was it like? I mean, you're having to obviously prepare your students normally, which obviously is a lot of work, and then this happens, then all of a sudden, you know, you've got to change your plan. So what went into that? Because I think the teachers have had to do a lot of work on a very short amount of notice, and I think it's required a lot of innovation and ingenuity. So can you just describe kind of how that process has evolved for you over the last few weeks?
Absolutely. Some of my students are being raised by their grandparents. So their caregivers are what we would call our technology immigrants. And so I think that they have been very pleasantly surprised with the way that our students have been able to show their independence with technology and provide their own caregivers with support and how to navigate this new learning model. I definitely think that it has taken some ingenuity on our part to be able to not only incorporate our academic lessons and also the rigor that we know are going to get our students to be workforce and career ready, college and career ready. It's also about maintaining those relationships and reaching out and making sure that our students are happy and healthy. I know I have one student in my class, and my students are 6 and 7 years old. One of my students was especially shy and a little bit nervous about engaging in an online environment with me and his peers. And so it took me inviting him and his mom to have a one-on-one virtual meeting with me, just to let him experience what it's like to talk on a computer with somebody. And that made him more comfortable. And then the next time we met with his peers, he was able to share. So it's really about relationships. And that's what it always comes down to, is making sure that we know our students, we know what they need to feel success, and making sure that they have what they need to feel success, even in this new learning model. But differentiation is what we do. That's what makes Florida educators phenomenal. And so as long as we know our students and have the resources that we've been given, then we are able to do our job. And I would like to thank Governor DeSantis, Commissioner Corcoran, and the State Board of Education, and also our local leaders for the leadership that's being provided to educators across the state right now. Because as long as I have the trust of my state and my local leaders, then I know, as long as I know my students, I can provide what they need to be successful, and we'll all come out stronger.
Great, thank you.
And
Thank
next
you.
we have a parent whose life has probably been upturned quite a bit, but also very active in the PTA, is Conleen Banco.
Afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to participate today. Again, my name is Conleen Banco. My husband and I live in Alachua County, Florida, and we have 4 kids, a senior and a sophomore at Gainesville High School, a 7th grader at Westwood Middle School, and a 3rd grader at J.J. Finley Elementary School. We both are still working. I'm a small business owner, and my husband is faculty at the University of Florida. And I would just like to echo many of the sentiments that have already been mentioned here today. I can tell you, first and foremost, Governor DeSantis and Commissioner Corcoran and Chancellor Oliva, your leadership, and also the fact that you all are parents going through the same things that we are going through. And I know as a parent, one of the prayers that I've always asked for, and not just in times of crisis, is not only for compassion and grace, but patience. And I just can't express enough how many people have called this distance learning or research, that they've been afraid of it, to think that it's somehow the same as homeschooling. And it's nothing could be further from the truth, because with my own school district, as I know can be echoed around the state, I don't feel alone. I'm not alone in the education of my children. I still have my partnership and the engagement that we've been building up. We just have to do it in a different environment. So I do want to say, for the most part, I have seen nothing but everyone trying their best to reach the needs of kids. My family is one of that is very privileged, I will say that. We have enough resources that everyone has a device. We can all be on at the same time. My kids' educational needs can still be met. But one of the things that I needed to face with my kids last week is, and as a reminder as a parent, is this is hard. And I think that goes across the board with superintendents, teachers, principals. This is hard. And I think one of the first pieces of social emotional learning that the last teacher just mentioned is you can't give what you haven't given yourself. And if one of the things I had to realize is my kids are missing school. In many ways, they're going through a grieving process, and they're highly frustrated. But as I said, I'm not alone. All of their teachers have reached out, and all of their teachers, they know that they're there for them. And I can just share a short story with you about my son last week, who's a sophomore at GHS. he's like, Mom, this is all over the place. Some of the things are inconsistent, and, why didn't we just wait? And I took him through, because of my level of engagement through PTA, I took him through some of the reasons for the decisions. And the other thing I told him, I said, honey, I can tell you from top to bottom in this state, every decision that is being made is for you. And I can tell you as a parent that I have a great partner in our public schools with all of your teachers, our superintendent, and your state leaders. So, but as I said, I think it's going to take us a while. Even with the level of engagement that we're seeing, the incredible level of engagement that you're seeing in Pinellas County, I don't know what it is here in Alachua County. I know from my advocacy work, I hear the incredible amount of effort, and I've witnessed the incredible amount of effort to make sure that the first tier needs of students are being met, especially with our food service workers. Can't say enough about our food service directors. But it's going to take a concerted effort, and we're being redirected, right? We have to figure out a new way to get through this for at least a month. And I have a senior in high school. I can tell you, it was one of the first things I was worried about. Are we going to graduate? Is the Florida high school diploma going to be there? What's going to happen with her Cambridge classes? All of those things are, as I said, you just have to ask for some patience here as well. And one of the things I can say that Alachua County Public Schools has helped with my children is, and the education of my children, is adaptability. As you know, I think as my daughter was born in 2002, right after 9/11, the things that she has witnessed and seen and will face, and trying to make a decision on where to go to college next year, is, as we stay at home, is unprecedented. But our education system has given her the skills, and my family and her village, is there to help her. She knows how to advocate for herself and to own her education. So I do want to say thank you. And also I'd just like to echo the same thing some of those other people said from a Florida PTA perspective. I do sit on the board of directors, and I'm on their legislative committee. First, Governor DeSantis, we want to congratulate you on the birth of your daughter. And we also just want to continue to say we'd like to continue to help. So all of these things that you all are finding out, all this information that we're going to have an inordinate amount of data coming in by the end of the month. Let us know how we can help to make sure every child reaches their potential. And that the distraction or the bump that this is causing worldwide in people's education.
Well, thank you so much. And just want to thank you and all the parents out there who've had to really go into kind of a brave new world here. And it hasn't been easy, but I think so many parents have responded very positively. I am concerned as the longer this drags on, the more people that are economically dislocated. I think that is going to be something that's going to be problematic if we're talking about distance learning, and then obviously as we get into other issues like mental health, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So we really appreciate the load that the parents are carrying, particularly those who've run into financial hardship, and that's a big priority for us to try to mitigate that, and we're working on a variety of strategies to try to mitigate that very quickly. But I appreciate everyone in Florida who's working so hard, and and I think that was mentioned by Conleen, but when you're in school, particularly like the high school kids, I mean, obviously the education's important, but there's a social dimension to this. If someone's going to graduate, a prom, sports, all these different things, and to have that taken away is a big deal. and that really is going to affect students. And so we're sensitive to that, and obviously would love to get folks back to where they're able to interact like they're used to, but particularly for those students who are nearing the end. And so I know Richard's been concerned as well. So I want to thank you, and again, thank the teachers. I appreciate both Ruth and Sarah for what you're doing. It means a lot, and to be able to have this many people that are engaged and that are doing it. That's not uniform throughout the country, as Richard said, but I think it's a testament to how the teachers here in Florida really worked hard to get this in place and to make sure that people could do distance learning. So I want to commend you for that. Of course, we worked hard on a lot of teacher stuff this year. I'm hoping that that'll still end up going through. Of course, we're watching the different, how this all goes, but that's definitely one of our prize priorities. So we're going to do the best we can to make sure that sticks. So thank you. And I also wanted Richard, he's going to talk a little bit about some of the mental health components of this. I don't even think we can really fully fathom how the mental health aspects of this are going to unfold in the days, weeks, months, and potentially even years going forward. Fact of the matter is that the country's been through pandemics before. We've never been through one where we've had this level of staying at home with the parents having to do this, economic dislocation. So there's going to be a mental health component to this one way or another, and we need to lean into that and do the best we can to help folks. So.
Yeah, and so who I'd like to introduce, Governor, is obviously you guys know Jacob Oliva is the Chancellor of our whole K-12 system. He's been, in fact, as we speak right now, we have a webinar beginning to the districts on telehealth. But I'm going to have Jacob Oliva and then Andrew Wetherill, who is our specialist for ESE students, and have them both talk about how what are we doing in terms of continuity of service and mental health and our ESE students. Jacob?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Corcoran and Governor DeSantis. I want to thank you, too, for your leadership and to the Commissioner for really setting the tone on how we're going to navigate through this crisis. And from day one, we really set that tone that we're going to keep students safe. We're going to maintain as much continuity with our students as we can, and we're going to make sure that they have that safety net around them to have that support wherever they are in their lives and whatever challenges they may face. We often get asked, what's the secret to Florida's success, or what is it that makes a school good? And my responses to that usually is it's a pretty easy formula. Get good teachers, get good leaders, get out of their way. And when we started facing this challenge here in Florida, our districts and our leaders and our teachers really have stepped up and have done a tremendous job making sure that they are putting together a learning plan that meets the need for all their students, for all aspects of their life. Fortunately for us, First Lady DeSantis really tasked the agencies a few years back to start really working together and defining a term that we call a system of care for all our students to make sure whatever mental health and needs and supports that are needed to put in place for that student to be successful, they have access to. So as we have done a good job developing those systems of care, now we're looking at how do we transition what has been put in place for those students to a virtual environment. And Andrew, excuse me, can tell you a little bit more about some of the work that we've done around telehealth, around providing access to school social workers, school counselors, school psychologists, even in a distant learning environment to make sure that safety net is there.
And that's right. We continue to enhance our access for all students to have that time with their school counselor, social worker, school psych, and school nurse as well, to have that time they would in a building now being done on a different platform virtually. So just as our teachers are certainly adapting and adjusting to a virtual setting, so are those counselors and social workers and school psych, et cetera. So they're ensuring that your students are not only, all of our students are getting those supports that they need to be successful in the classroom and breaking down those barriers, as Dr. Grego had mentioned earlier, through its team leadership team meetings and others, but also through actually having counseling sessions through virtual settings, making sure to provide those services with those students, to have those discussions, because it is incredibly important that we're ensuring that our students are getting their needs met so that they can focus on the education at hand and get that world-class education we know they're getting through our wonderful teachers. So we want to make sure that we are supporting in all ways through the efforts of the governor and the First Lady, through the Hope for Healing and our partnership with our community team members, but also just internally as our school-based mental health providers, that we are working together collaboratively to meet the needs of our students and families.
I just, that's a regular theme, and it's just a great to hear all the stories of, this is what's going on in our education system in the state of Florida. We have principals driving to students' houses. Every child matters. Every one child is being searched for, found, and educated. Teleconferences with parents, helping them with, the parent and the child with their assignments, and then also doing the same with our counselors and having that one-on-one relationship still continue even in this disruptive manner. It's encouraging, and it's why we're the education state. So I just want to say thank you very much for all of you guys participating. Thank you for your great work. Thank you for your collaboration. Thank you for your patience, your compassion, your grace, and we will get through this, and we will continue to be the education state, and our students will get complete safety and a world-class education. So thank you very much, Governor, for having this forum.
No, and thanks for everybody for participating. Thanks, Richard, for your leadership and really being very proactive. I mean, when this was coming down the pike, obviously, from the state level, we're working on, immediately we saw the virus is affecting particularly the elderly. We had to protect the seniors. We did a lot for nursing homes to protect folks in assisted living. We needed more testing because there wasn't enough available, so we've worked hard to ramp that up. Now we've got 160,000 tests completed. We're going to do thousands and thousands of more, and then support our frontline healthcare workers, make sure there's enough hospital space, all these different things. That was kind of like the tip of the spear in terms of the problems that this virus was doing, but then you take a step beyond that and see how the response has affected all of society, and there's probably not been one aspect of society that's had a more broad-based effect, an effect on, than our education system, just because we have millions of people involved in it, and to be able to transition to this as quickly and relatively seamlessly as has been done throughout the state. I would have anticipated much more issues, and I'm not saying there's not going to be issues, but I think folks working in Florida school system deserve a lot of credit. I think the parents deserve a lot of credit. So we here at the state government appreciate what you're doing. We understand it's not easy, and we obviously would love to get back to normal as soon as we can. We just want to make sure we're doing it safely. So thank you all. I'll take a few questions, and then if there's any questions for any of the other folks, I know they're happy to stay here and take some as well. Mike?
Governor, I was pleased to see you wearing blue gloves yesterday in Miami. I wanted to ask you, May 4th, which is the deadline, I guess, we're going back to class, in-class learning, is just 25 days away. Other states have canceled for the year. What's your thinking there, and what can you say to parents who want some certainty?
Well, we're gonna look at the evidence and make a decision. We have not made a decision yet. I think, look, if it's safe, we want kids to be in school. I think most parents want that. So we're going to continue to look and see how this develops, and then make a decision there. But I think Richard and I have talked about it. I mean, if we get to the point where people think that we're on the other side of this, and we could get kids back in, even if it's for a couple weeks, we think that there would be value in that. I think it would kind of return to normalcy a little bit. There's going to obviously be things different in society. I'm not saying it's going to be 100% normal immediately, but I do think that there would be value. So if it's safe to do it, then we'd like to do it. Now, if you look at with schools, I mean, kind of the public health playbook when things happen like this, close schools, cancel mass gatherings. There's just certain things you do. And I think, and I understand that. This particular pandemic is one where I don't think nationwide there's been a single fatality under 25. For whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to threaten kids. And we lose in Florida between 5 and 10 kids a year for the flu. This one, for whatever reason, much more dangerous if you're 65 and plus than the flu, no doubt about that. If you're younger, it just hasn't had an impact. So that should factor into how we're viewing this. I think the data on that has been 100% consistent. I've not seen any deviation on that. Obviously, there's second and third order effects that you have to do in terms of how kids interact or whatnot. But we're going to look at it. I mean, we'll make a decision in due time. But I think most parents, if they're confident we're on the other side of this and they're confident that it could be safe, I think if they had that option, I think that they would choose to have them go back to school.
Give parents the option, perhaps, to continue distance learning or send their children back?
You know, that's not a bad idea. I mean, that would definitely be something that I would look at, because I think different people would feel, and quite frankly, if you look at how this has impacted the state, it has not been a uniform impact. We have 60% of the cases are in 3 counties in southeast Florida, and that's just the reality that we find ourselves in. And so there's other communities where you may have had some cases, but you're still in a situation where with testing and isolating people that are infected and contact tracing, you could do a lot to really contain it from spreading.
So as of today, there's no plans to remain the rest of the school year possibly until summer?
We have not made a decision beyond what's already been announced. We review the data every day. We look to see. I'm in contact with the White House every day about any recommendations that they would have, either from the President's task force or from the CDC. I think this is just something that's very dynamic. I think people are looking at it really on an hour-by-hour basis as new information and new data comes in. And so we're going to do that. Obviously, we want to give people enough time to prepare, so I don't think we would want to, the day before, just say, oh, everyone go back to school the next day. I mean, you know, we're going to do it, but we're going to be deliberate, and we're going to make sure that we make the best decisions that we can. And it may be that not every county is going to be treated the same in this. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. If the problem is different in certain parts, then we should recognize that. And if the problem has really abated in other parts, we should recognize that. Yes, sir.
Governor, I wanted to ask you a little bit about preparedness for hurricane season. Obviously, this is not a time you really want to have to worry about hurricanes, but we're hearing that there could be a potential larger than normal concern for hurricanes this season. So how are you handling COVID as well as a potential hurricane?
Well, hurricanes, we assume there's going to be hurricanes every year. I mean, that's just the reality. That's what we have to do. We had a very close call last year, but that is going to be something that we're assuming we're going to have to deal with. And that's similar to how we've handled this. I mean, I'm down in Miami Beach yesterday. We're building out this field hospital at the convention center. I mean, if you look at Miami's hospital census, it's very low. But we're preparing for the worst. Obviously, hopefully we don't have to use that convention center. Hopefully we don't have to deal with the hurricane. But I think we have to assume that we're going to have one, and that's just something we're going to have to deal with. I did speak today with Ben Carson, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Our Hurricane Michael comment period for our state action plan ends today. We're going to review that. Whatever changes need to be made, submit it. And I asked him, they have 45 days to approve. And I said, Mr. Secretary, can you turn that around quickly? And he said, yeah, we want to turn it around quickly. And so that will be helpful to have more of that money coming down in the area that was just affected in October of 2018. And then obviously, if you look at like Bay County and some of those areas, they've tried to claw back. You have seen some economic activity. Then this pandemic has really held them down, and so they probably would have been able to make more progress. So that's another issue. So if we can get that money out, that'll be good. But let's just hope that that we don't have one. That would be great. But I think it would be irresponsible for us to put our chips in that basket. So we are assuming that we're going to have to deal with some type of storm, major storm this year.
Last question.
Stuff you've been doing with the unemployment system, how satisfied are you seeing any progress, and how satisfied are you?
Well, there's definitely been progress. So I got the numbers yesterday, and I'll have my folks verify this, but I think on the main Connect site, I think there were between 35 and 50,000 submissions, but then they created a parallel site that I think there were another 50,000 submitted. Now that parallel site, they're going to have to migrate the data into this Connect system, but at least people are able to do it. They're submitting it. And I told them, it's like, hey, if you can't get that migrated into Connect, we've got 2,000 state employees there who can potentially help out with that. So there's been a big increase in the call center capacity, and there's been an increase in the website capacity. Now, the first day when the servers were in, I think that they processed 65,000 through Connect, which was the most that has happened I think probably in Florida history. But then as people realized there were more servers, you started getting a crush of even more people. So it slowed down Monday. It got a little bit better, I think Tuesday or Wednesday. So that's just, but there is an additional website option. I think when you go on, I think they call it like, I don't know the technical term, but so people are submitting through that. It's going to be a responsibility of the state to migrate that over, but at least people can file. We'll know when they file. They'll have the opportunity to do it. And then I think we're starting to get the shipments in from the FedEx office sites. FedEx, as you know, was kind enough to print applications for people. People can fill them out, and then FedEx will send the stack every day from all their FedEx office locations to Tallahassee, and those are processed with state employees. And so this is a real serious effort. I think the amount of resources that have been put into this, if you look at all the DOR employees, if you look at all the other employees from the agencies, if you look at the number of people who are now brought on to make phone calls, we are taking this extremely seriously. We're putting as much as we can there. And then if there are things that aren't going good, I told them you need to be nimble and we need to make sure, how you get it done. But I think that we're in a better position today than we were a week ago, and we need to continue to improve the system. And hopefully, if those claims are you do have to review the claims. I mean, you have to have a valid Social Security number. You have to have a valid, Florida driver's license there. You have to have been employed in Florida. I mean, so there are certain things, even though I've waived a lot of the job search and everything, but I mean, there are certain things that have to be verified. And I think part of the issue with the website was when you go into it, it then goes into the Social Security database to verify the Social Security number, and I think that caused it to slow down as well. But there does need to be the verification of the Social Security number, so that's kind of what they're doing, and then hopefully getting it out. But they're doing direct deposit when people provide that information, but then people that don't have the bank, they're doing the debit cards for the folks. So it's a big thing. I got to run, but if you want to give if Richard and the folks here, I'm sure we'll be able to answer questions.